Hurricane Milton makes landfall. Biden and Harris go on the offensive against Trump. Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, they're desperate. I'm telling you, they're desperate, and it is becoming really disgusting and despicable. As Hurricane Milton has now, as I said, made landfall, it is lashing the state of Florida. It arrived right near the city of Siesta Key on the west coast. That's in Sarasota County. That's where it first hit land. And it has been a devastating storm. Now, the only upside to all of it, it appears to be not quite as bad as initially predicted. It was a category 5, my bad. Downgraded quickly to a category 4. It hit land as a category 3 hurricane, which is still obviously very dangerous. It is doing a tremendous amount of damage. There is a lot of flash flooding, winds, in particular Sarasota, over 100 miles per hour. Other places in Tampa Bay, about 90 mile per hour winds. Roofs have been blown off. Trees are down everywhere. Over 3 million Floridians are now without power, and that number is expected to rise. The hurricane now has hit land for about maybe a good 9 hours. So it is now making its way across Florida inland. It is, by the way, now it is starting to hammer Orlando. So even the central parts, inland parts of Florida, are now facing the wrath, the onslaught of Hurricane Milton. Now, President Biden is desperately trying to politicize this. This is, to me, what I find, honestly, this is stomach turning. So he held a press conference yesterday. And in that press conference, with the media around him, he had Alejandro Mayorkas. He had Ken Graham, the head of the National Weather Service. He had all of his people. And like something straight out of the Soviet Politburo, he asks Mayorkas in front of everybody, do you have everything that you need for FEMA to deal with this storm and to help Governor Ron DeSantis? Mayorkas responds, we have more than what we need, and it's all thanks to you, Mr. President. I swear, the only thing missing was, and thanks to you, dear leader. Stalin. Or, thanks to you, Xi Jinping. Or thanks to you, the dear leader of North Korea. I mean, the cheap propaganda, honestly, it was stomach-turning. Totalitarian is the only word that came to my mind. But it was much worse than that. I wish it was only that. Joe Biden went out of his way to politicize Hurricane Milton and Hurricane Helene. And he went on the offensive against Trump, urging Americans, people in Florida, saying, heed what the governor's saying, listen to these mandatory evacuations, shelter in place, stay out of the way of this hurricane as best as you can. And then, boom, he pivoted and turned it into a campaign event. And you know who the boogeyman is. Blame everything on Trump. So I want you to think about this. Okay, I'll play the cut, I promise. Millions are without power. We know there's going to be dead bodies. There always are in the wake of these massive hurricanes. They haven't even started the search and rescue operations. Governor DeSantis came out and said, the moment this storm begins to die down, the moment the weather just dies down a little bit, probably in about an hour or two, they are now going to deploy all of the massive assets that have been pre-positioned to start search and rescue operations to try to save and rescue as many lives as possible, and obviously to uncover the dead. The bodies are still cold, not even cold. People are still sheltering in place. We don't know how many have died or what the death toll will be. They haven't even begun rescue and recovery operations. And already they're attacking, criticizing, and blaming Trump. Listen now to Biden saying that all of this misinformation in the proper Russian, the misinformatio about Hurricane Helene relief efforts and what's going to happen now with Hurricane Milton. He says it must stop, and it's all at the feet of one man, Donald J. Trump. Roll cut 2A, Mike.
But now I want to be clear about something. For the last few weeks, there's been a reckless, irresponsible, and relentless promotion of disinformation and outright lies that are disturbing people. It's undermining confidence in the incredible rescue and recovery work that has already been taken and will continue to be taken. And it's harmful to those who need help the most. There's simply no place for this to happen. Former President Trump has led the onslaught of lies. Assertions have been made that property is being confiscated. That's simply not true. They're saying people impacted by these storms will receive $750 in cash and no more. That's simply not true. They're saying the money is needed for this crisis is being diverted to migrants. What a ridiculous thing to say. It's not true.
I mean, really, this is sickening. I'm sorry, my friends. But first of all, everything that Trump said is true. The only mis and disinformation is from him. So let me get this straight. Now FEMA has not been resettling and housing and funding migrants? No, even though the budget shows that they've been funding and resettling migrants, even though Mayorkas repeatedly on tape has admitted that they're funding and resettling migrants, that Karine Jean-Pierre herself said they've been funding and resettling migrants. So suddenly now what? That's just because it's inconvenient now? It's embarrassing? Suddenly that never happened? So we're just going to lie to the American people to our faces and claim that Trump is spreading misinformation? Well, no. FEMA has spent over $1.8 billion resettling, housing, funding, and taking care of migrants. I'm sorry. The facts are the facts are the facts. It's on your own Homeland Security's budget. Never mind the thousands of news stories that have confirmed all of this. But let that go. Now, as for this so-called, there's no land grab going on, really. So why is BlackRock offering people to buy up their land? No, that's not happening. Everybody's making this up. That's not true. No. To me, what is most disgusting of everything, really, beyond tragic, you have the victims of Hurricane Helene. You have these poor people who themselves are saying, the victims of Hurricane Helene, FEMA is nowhere. 10 days, 2 weeks after the storm, no food, no water, nothing, no clothing, no emergency or medical supplies. We've had nothing. The only help we've gotten is from private groups and private citizens. So are they all lying? Is everybody on the ground now lying? I mean, I'm sorry, but so in other words, what they're trying to tell us is if you dare to criticize this regime, if you dare to criticize their incompetent, inept, ineffective response, then that's misinformation. You can't criticize this regime. But notice, when it was a Republican in office, when it was George W. Bush and Hurricane Katrina, then you could level your criticisms against George Bush. They crucified the guy over Hurricane Katrina. But now, if the people in North Carolina, the victims, are saying, we've had no water, no food, no medical supplies, no emergency supplies, we haven't even seen a FEMA representative. So all the people in Batcave, North Carolina who said this, they're all lying. In Burnsville, they're lying. In Asheville, they're lying. So they're all lying. Pathetic. Pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. And now to politicize this and go after Trump, who, by the way, was the only one who showed up on the scene at the beginning and handed out food and water and supplies. And by the way, even now, he has opened up his hotel, Doral, in Miami. He's housing 275 linesmen for free so they can help with the recovery efforts to start getting power up, electricity up, and to start getting Florida back on its feet. He's there making a difference on the front lines. And these clowns are pointing fingers and claiming, no. Our response has been magnificent. He is playing politics while people are dying. The question now is, why? Why? I've got that. Your calls next. KO, Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868. Okay, my friends, I just want we have a huge audience in Florida. I don't know if they can even listen to the show today, obviously, with 3 million now out of power, massive torrential rains, huge flooding. Now they're saying that there is going to be a high death toll. This is what local officials are saying. They're going to begin search and rescue operations very, very shortly. Look, to his credit, Ron DeSantis has pre-positioned a lot of assets. They are ready to go. They are extremely well prepared. He is watching and quarterbacking this like a general. And so far, his handling has been absolutely perfect. So hopefully they can get to people in time, save as many lives as possible, rescue as many people. But some of those areas hit are not just densely populated. Now, thankfully, many evacuated. They left, thank the Lord. But there were a lot of elderly that lived there. And according to local officials, many of these people, stubborn, decided not to go. They said they were going to ride it out. And these are people in their 70s, 80s, and 90s. And with the kind of huge storm surge that hit places like Sarasota and Tampa Bay, the fear is that surge is very life-threatening because you can get 12, 13, even 15 feet surges. This can flood homes, wash people out, and kill them. Literally, it becomes like parts of the coast become like the ocean. So they're very worried that there could be elderly people who didn't leave for whatever reason are now dead. So our thoughts and prayers are with everybody in Florida right now. Obviously, everybody's still affected by Hurricane Helene, but Hurricane Milton now is ravaging. It has cut a huge path of destruction across Florida. It is making its way almost now out of Florida. It's going towards the east and the center of the peninsula. And apparently now it's still a Category 1, even though it's deep inland, almost on the other side of Florida. It is still a Category 1 hurricane. So this is a bomb. This is a ferocious hurricane. What it has also done, and this is also causing immense damage, is it has spawned or spun off at least 27 tornadoes. So, and these are not like these sort of quick tornadoes that you see in some of these hurricanes. These are powerful twisters that are also doing huge damage, destroying homes, taking down power lines, leading to even more flooding. So Florida now is getting hammered. It is really getting hammered. So to everybody there in Florida, especially Kuhner Country listeners, I'm thinking of all the people that called a couple days ago. Heather in particular. I mean, I'm thinking of Dan. I'm thinking of Andrea. I'm thinking of so many who called in. But Heather in particular and her fiance, I don't know why, but they're in my mind, they're in my thoughts, they're in my prayers, because she lives in Sarasota. And she was saying she wanted to leave, but her fiancé was saying, no, we're going to ride it out. They just bought a new home 6 months ago, according to what she told me, and they don't want to abandon their home. And my fear is that they have stayed because Sarasota got absolutely devastated. It was almost the eye of the storm. It hit Siesta Key first. That was the first place it hit. But Sarasota in particular was at the epicenter of Hurricane Milton, at its most destructive, at its most ominous. And so they're saying they're expecting a lot of death, destruction, and damage in Sarasota. So I'm thinking and praying for Heather and her fiancé. I hope they made it inland. I hope they did leave, or if they did stay, that they have survived. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay. As all this is going on, Joe Biden yesterday would not stop attacking Trump. It was nonstop. And the reason why he would not stop attacking Trump is because, as I pointed out on X yesterday, Kamala Harris's internal polls, her own internal polling now shows that she is losing in all 7 battleground states. According to political analyst Mark Halperin, who is a liberal with very good ties to Kamala's campaign, to the Democratic Party, he is now saying, look, they have shown me the internal polls, Kamala's internal polling, and it is devastating. She is in big trouble. She is losing in Arizona, losing in Pennsylvania, losing in Georgia, losing in North Carolina, losing in Nevada, losing in Michigan, losing in Wisconsin. And that, in fact, behind the scenes, the Democrats are in full panic. And one of the reasons why, multiple reasons, but one of the reasons why Kamala Harris's poll numbers now are plummeting, why she's hemorrhaging, and she's in serious trouble, was because she attacked, vilified, and criticized Ron DeSantis over his handling of Hurricane Milton and his refusal to take her calls. It is one of the biggest mistakes of her campaign. In fact, it is such a serious mistake that it's now going to probably cost her the election. So she is going down. And so they know now that their horrible response to Hurricane Helene, and now her failed attempt to inject herself into Hurricane Milton has blown up in their face, and that's why they have to politicize this storm. Jeff Kuhner, liberalism's worst nightmare. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, we're getting more and more information now coming out of Florida. It's bad. It's clearly bad. The entire roof of where the baseball team, the Tampa Bay Rays, play, Tropicana Field, as it's known, the whole roof has now been blown off. It's gone. The roof is gone. So obviously you've got very powerful winds, in many areas over 100 miles per hour, some areas over 80 miles per hour. According now to the fire department chief in Tampa Bay, they say that last night alone, they got over 100 rescue calls, over 100 people begging for help, saying that their homes were being flooded, they were trapped, they feared they were going to die, and there was just nothing they could do for them at that moment. Search and rescue operations have now begun, and they're going to try to save as many lives as possible, rescue as many people as possible, and try to get as much power and electricity up as quickly as possible. Now, as all of this is taking place, Joe Biden went on a tear against Trump. And as I pointed out in the last segment, the reason why they are now going Thunderdome, it's an all-out onslaught against Trump. The media, in a coordinated effort, is screaming misinformation, that Trump is pushing, disseminating misinformation about Hurricane Helene and its aftermath, about FEMA, about how unprepared they've been, about how they've been diverting so much of their funding and money to help house, fund, and resettle migrants, how the people in North Carolina and Georgia have been betrayed and abandoned. And they clearly see that it has changed and moved the needle in the polls. It is now undeniable. Internal Democratic polling now shows Kamala Harris's own polls say she's in deep trouble. In fact, as a senior campaign official admitted to CNN, we are looking at 2016 all over again. And what they meant was Trump's going to run the table. He's going to win Arizona, win Georgia, win North Carolina, win Pennsylvania, and smash the Democrats' blue wall in Michigan and Wisconsin, giving him a huge victory in the Electoral College. So they're in a full panic. And what their internal polling is also showing is that the country is disgusted by their response to Hurricane Helene. In particular, how they have politicized the response to Hurricane Helene, how ineffective, incompetent, inept their response was, how late they were, and in particular, and you remember I said it at the time and I'm going to say it again, you have Americans dying, desperate for help, and Joe Biden is at the beach, at his beach home in Rehoboth. Kamala Harris is hobnobbing and rubbing elbows with celebrities at these glitzy fundraisers in Hollywood and San Francisco. Mayorkas was at an awards ceremony. This is where the top three who are supposed to be overseeing the response, nobody was in Washington. And all they cared about was everything but the hurricane and its response. The point is, this is now crushing and killing them in the polls. So now, instead of admitting we were wrong, we were late, we were inept, we were incompetent. No. Now what they're trying to say is, are you going to believe us or your lying eyes? Don't believe the victims of Hurricane Helene. Don't believe all the people on the ground who are saying, we got no food, no gas, no fuel, no water, no emergency medical supplies of any kind except from private groups. FEMA was nowhere to be seen. We have been abandoned. No, don't believe the victims. Believe us. Listen now to Joe Biden. Roll cut 4A. Mike.
Why do you think Trump is spreading misinformation?
I don't know. I simply don't know. You can speculate, but I just find it, I've used the phrase more than I've used it ever my whole career, un-American. It's un-American. It's not who the hell we are. What are they talking about?
Sir, have you considered calling him and asking him to stop doing that? To stop spreading it?
Come on. I'm not going to call him. He's un-American. This is un-American. Pathetic. Honestly, man, pathetic. 200 and over, 35 dead that we know of and counting. I'm just talking Hurricane Helene now. Entire towns gone. Homes gone. Communities gone. People who are on rooftops, literally on rooftops, waiting to be rescued, begging to be rescued. And no military assets were deployed. Where was FEMA? Nowhere. The roof collapsed. And a woman witnessed, a mother witnessed her parents and her son with his grandparents literally die right in front of her eyes. To just give you one egregious example. And he's like, he's spreading misinformation. Okay. You want to talk misinformation? Here's misinformation. Here's the misinformation these people are talking about. Okay? You tell me if this is misinformation or not. So, in 2022, ABC News. Okay, this is ABC News out of New York City. WABC. They have a huge story about FEMA and the migrants. And this is, I'm just going to read to you the headline. This is ABC in 2022. Federal funds approved for cities handling influx of asylum seekers. This is ABC News out of New York City, WABC. Midtown Manhattan, WABC. There is some good news for U.S. citizens. I'm reading you the story. Okay, ABC News. Again, you want the exact date? December 21, 2022. There is some good news for U.S. cities which have been absorbing the influx of migrants from the southern U.S. border. Federal lawmakers have negotiated $800 million to give out as grants to those cities. Sources say, here it comes, New York Senator Chuck Schumer has already discussed with FEMA the allocation of a substantial amount of that money for New York City. So, December 21, 2022, ABC News. I can do thousands of these, but ABC News. FEMA is spending hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars funding migrants, resettling them, taking care of them, providing shelter for them. So, that's 2022. Now let's go to 2024. It's the election now. They have to save Kamala Harris's rear end. This is ABC News. Quote, Trump falsely claims Biden used FEMA funds for migrants. So in 2022, FEMA was spending a ton of money on migrants. In 2024, to stop the bleeding and the hemorrhaging and to bail out the Kamala campaign because Trump is making the obvious point. You've got money for migrants. You don't have money for fellow Americans. Our priorities are way off. Suddenly, Trump falsely claims Biden used FEMA funds for migrants. Now, the media has become pure propaganda for the Democratic Party. And what they're watching in front of their eyes, this is despite all of their lies, all of their smears, all of their defamation, all of their manipulation, Trump is pulling away because people on the ground can see who has their back and who doesn't. And I said this before, and I want to repeat it again. This is becoming Kamala's Hurricane Katrina. George W. Bush politically never recovered. His popularity collapsed. And this is what you're watching now. And now the regime is desperate, absolutely desperate. And that's why they're lashing out at Trump and trying to just yell and scream misinformation, 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 when everything that he's saying is 1,000% true. So I want to ask you, okay, a couple lines are open. I promise I'm going to unleash the hounds, get all the callers on. I want to take calls from Florida, but anybody who's calling in, obviously. We will put people on Florida up first to give us a report on the ground, but I want to hear from all of you. What do you make now of Biden and Harris clearly politicizing Hurricane Helene and clearly politicizing now Hurricane Milton? Will this work? Trying to blame Trump for spreading so-called misinformation? Or will this boomerang and blow up in their face? Are you as disgusted by this as I am? WRKO 617-266-6868 is the number. Will in Florida. Thanks for holding, Will, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. I'm having a little trouble getting the weather this morning. How's the weather in Rehoboth Beach?
Well, I got to tell you, Will, you got a great attitude for what's happening to your state right now. Will, are you okay? That's, to me, the most important thing. How are you, and how is your family?
I'm fine. My family's fine. My brother's in the middle of it. I'm going to call him in about an hour because he's probably dealing with it firsthand. But what I wanted to tell you this morning is I'm driving westbound on Interstate 10 going to my day job, and there are convoys rolling east of literally hundreds of support vehicles, tree-cutting vehicles. They're police escorted, and they're rolling. It looks like a military invasion of help down here. We were marshaling area up around Pensacola for Ron DeSantis' homemade army, and they're rolling.
Will, that's what I've been reading as well, and there's a lot of images. He's like a general, the way he's prepositioning all of his forces to just tackle this hurricane and try to mitigate much of the damage and destruction. Will, what is the feeling among Floridians? Has DeSantis done everything possible to try to help the people of Florida? Are people happy so far with his leadership?
We love the guy. We would have him for 10 more terms if we could, but we feel like he's got a higher calling now after J.D. Vance gets his turn, and the only thing he's missing is the theme for Patton.
Will, buddy, let me ask you, I'm just curious, what do you make of the fact you guys are now being absolutely slammed by, this huge, massive hurricane? You know better than I do, obviously. You're right there. 3 million Floridians now without power. A lot of cities now are facing huge flooding issues. Trees are down everywhere. There are now people dead, confirmed. We don't know how high the death toll is going to go. You've got frantic search and rescue operations going on as you and I speak. And Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are vilifying Trump because he's speaking up for the victims, saying, where is FEMA? What do you make of the fact that they're attacking Trump and trying to politicize Helene and Milton while they failed on the job and Trump is the only one trying to help people on the ground? I'm just curious, what's your reaction and what's the reaction of people in Florida that you speak to?
Elections are going to come down to one thing and one thing only. Who are you going to believe, us or your own lying eyes? Everybody in the country has a camera now, and you see what's happening, and then they say something completely different and tell you your eyes are lying to you. So which are you going to believe? That's what we think.
You're dead on. Absolutely dead on. Will, please stay safe, my friend. I know you've got family in that whole zone now that's being impacted by Hurricane Milton. Please give them my best. I want you to know, you, your family, everyone, you're in my thoughts and prayers. And please let us know how everything turns out. Okay, Will?
Take care, brother.
Take care, my friend. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, it wasn't just Biden. So you need to hear this. Of course, Comrade Kamala, she got in on the act. So this is her on Stephen Colbert. So remember, she's opening a beer. They're cracking jokes. She's cackling. She's laughing as Hurricane Milton is barreling down towards Florida. And the people in western North Carolina and rural Georgia are desperate for, still 2 weeks after, are desperate for help. And listen to what she says. Blame evil orange man. Roll cut 5, Mike.
What just upsets me so is the idea that any politician would play political games with these folks, with people who are in the midst of such suffering, loss of life, loss of their homes, loss of normalcy, and then for the sake of political gain, tell these lies in a way that is meant to make people distrust the help that is there for them to receive. It just is something we have to say, look, at some point, we have to work together. And I'll tell you, there are plenty of leaders who are working in a bipartisan way. I've talked to governors of both parties who are working in a bipartisan way to get the aid to people on the ground.
You're against people playing political games? Really? You mean like trying to call the governor of Florida and turn it into a campaign issue when he's desperately trying to focus on trying to save lives? But no. You're not playing political games. No, hey, no. Trying to use DeSantis and Hurricane Milton as a campaign prop and injecting yourself into something you have no business injecting yourself into. Dan, you're not playing political games. And notice, she can never specifically say what's a lie. What's the lie? What did Trump say that was false? What? That FEMA was late? True. That FEMA's been completely incompetent? True. That the $750 checks that they're offering are pathetic and measly and frankly insulting compared to how much they just gave $157 million to Lebanon, $8 billion to Ukraine. And by the way, now the Ukrainians in private are now telling Biden they're going to lose the war. Literally, Zelensky now in a conversation with Biden said, I don't know how much longer we can hold up. So all of that money for what? More Ukrainians dying, more Russians dying. It has changed nothing on the ground in Ukraine. Nothing. 250 million right down the toilet. Or to be more accurate, into the pockets of Zelensky, his cronies, and Joey and the Biden crime family. Okay? But let that go. So what did he say that was so wrong? What did he say that was misinformation, that was false, that was untrue? Nothing. But that doesn't stop her. There she is on Colbert. Roll cut 5A. Mike.
This kind of manipulation is a cynical and corrupt luxury that people are using.
And it's crude. Have you no empathy, man?
Yes.
You know, for the suffering of other people. Have you no sense of purpose? If you purport to be a leader, to understand that being a leader means lifting people up in a time of need and not manipulating them.
Look at the lemmings.
You know?
Listen to the lemmings in the crowd, those moonbows. Yeah. Really? So where was your empathy when you were rubbing elbows with Hollywood celebrities as people were literally dying from Hurricane Helene? Tell me, where was your empathy when you were doing $10,000 a plate dinners in San Francisco and partying, drinking champagne, eating caviar, lobster, shrimp, dancing and boogieing till 2:00 in the morning? Then no, that's your way of showing empathy? Tell me, when Biden was on the beach in Rehoboth and couldn't be bothered, where was his empathy? When Mayorkas was at an awards show, where was his empathy? Or when he was out luxury shopping for luxury clothes because he wants to look good in a Gianni Versace suit? So where was his empathy? You phony, you fraud, you. And listen now to the spin, because they're furious. The regime is furious. They're going ballistic, apoplectic over a column by J.D. Vance in Tuesday's Wall Street Journal, which, by the way, extremely well-written column. J.D., by the way, is a phenomenal writer. He wrote Hillbilly Elegy. The guy's really got he's got a gift for a turn of phrase. He's not just an eloquent speaker, he's also a very good writer. And he lays out the evidence and the case. It's irrefutable how FEMA bungled Hurricane Helene and how inept and incompetent and ineffective their response was. And they're panicking because JD made an absolutely brilliant case. So they're furious, absolutely furious. So they're yelling and screaming, misinformation. How dare JD write this column? This is going to get people killed. They're thinking the government's not there for them. That's because the government wasn't there for them. Alejandro Mayorkas goes on, this is CNN, and says, How dare JD criticize me and Kamala and Biden for our mishandling and our response to Hurricane Helene? Listen now to Alejandro complaining, if you point out the obvious, it's misinformation. Roll cut 12, Mike.
He writes this: shortly after Helene made landfall in the United States on September 26, Joe Biden was at his house in Rehoboth Beach. Vice President Kamala Harris was flying between ritzy California fundraisers, hobnobbing with celebrities. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas was in Los Angeles presiding over an award ceremony. How do you respond to those accusations from J.D. Vance?
Kate, we don't listen to or pay attention to such unproductive and, quite frankly, counterproductive words. We're focused on mission. The state and local leaders in the impacted states have praised the federal response. We work in partnership with our state and local officials. We have delivered more than $280 million in assistance directly to individuals impacted by Helene. And by the way, in Los Angeles, I was recognizing outstanding work of the personnel of the Department of Homeland Security, and surely others should support and recognize that tremendous work as well.
I mean, this guy's such a BSer. I swear, I'm sorry, but he's such a loser. I mean, he's not even a good liar. You know, I was at an award ceremony recognizing the great work that we do. We were patting ourselves on the back, all while we were having lobster and steak. You know, and bottles of wine and boogieing till 3 a.m. You know, I mean, this is unproductive. Frankly, this is counterproductive. So let me get this straight. Let's say the shoes were reversed. Let's just say. And Trump was president. And he was at his beach home, relaxing, as all this was happening. And his vice president was out raising cash on Hollywood and San Francisco. And his secretary of Homeland Security was at an awards ceremony. You don't think the Democrats and the media would be crucifying them? Saying this is a complete abdication of leadership? An absolute failure of leadership on every level? Nobody's in Washington. Nobody's directing FEMA. Nobody's coordinating with the governors and with the local officials as their towns and homes and communities are literally being wiped away, wiped out. In other words, it's not productive to point out the truth. No, it's misinformation. No, you can't. What, was there anything there that JD said was false? So what? Biden wasn't in Rehoboth? What? She wasn't out in San Francisco and Hollywood? What? You weren't out in L.A. stuffing your face on lobster and steak? And Beaujolais, shoveling a Beaujolais wine down your throat? No, that didn't happen? These people are disgusting. Honestly, they're absolutely disgusting. Vince in the great state of Florida. Vince, how are you? How is your family?
Jeff, we're fine. We're in, like I said the other day, we're in Boynton Beach, which is on the southeastern side of Florida, just below West Palm. The storm spared us on this side and on this coast, but the real story for this area was the tornadoes. There was multiple touchdowns in this area. One of our good friends who lives in Wellington had a tornado hit the next street over from them, and there was casualties. And up where my wife's family lives, up in Port St. Lucie, tornadoes struck an elderly community, and they're reporting mass casualties in that area there because of that. But I have friends in Daytona right now that I'm talking to, and they're getting the tail end of it right now, and it's pretty bad up where they are in Central Florida. But all in all, where we are, it was okay. We had all the storm shutters drawn and just rode it out, very windy, and that was pretty much it from where we were located. But again, the real story was the amount of tornadoes that were reported. to not be on the tornado watch. They were tornado warnings, which meant they were on the ground. And that was a little scary because you can't predict where those are going to go. Regarding everything you've been talking about, one thing that we noticed is every time Governor DeSantis spoke, it put our minds at ease, knowing that he had everything lined up and prepared for after the storm, before, during and before. Just the epitome of leadership. And the fact that he was able to communicate with President Biden was great, because that let us know that, despite the party alliances, everything was lined up and being taken care of. But the puppet show yesterday that they put on, it wasn't a press conference. It was a campaign ad. It was despicable. Just an absolutely ridiculous display of pettiness and trying to move the goalposts. And, the more that this happens, like I said, this press conference was a campaign ad. Well, Helene and Milton are campaign ads for the Republicans to really, really shine the light on the lack of leadership and the childish and immature behavior that continues to be displayed by the Democrats is just it's despicable how they've handled this, how they're pinning it on the Republicans, and all the Republicans have done was basically point out the facts, and they can't deal with it.
Vince, I take it you and your family have power?
Yeah, we never lost power. Everything is fine here. There are millions up in the northern and northwestern part of the state of Florida that are without power. So it's definitely a much different situation the further north you go and the further west you go in the state. So thankfully, a lot of people were spared the loss of life. The loss of property however, is going to be a big story. We don't know, as the sun comes up now, we don't know what the damage estimates are going to be, but it's going to be very high. This is what you sign up for when you live here, unfortunately, and many people have seen this before, and they always come together, they rebuild, and they move on. I grew up in New England, as you know, and nor'easters were part of what you sign up for when you live up there, and that you deal with what Mother Nature hands you, and you work together and you move on. You rebuild and you move on. And that's what the people of Florida are going to do in this situation. And I think the manner in which they move on and the quickness in how they move on will be a direct result of the leadership that Governor DeSantis was able to provide prior to this storm. We're seeing it every minute. We feel much more at ease knowing that the resources are there. We're going to be taken care of here in the state, and those that desperately need it are going to have the assistance of their local government. The national government, not so much, because we know what they're up to. Locally, the government here has been fantastic, and it really, really helps you deal with situations like this, knowing that the people are looking out for you.
Vince, phenomenal call. Honestly, you hit the nail right on the head. Couldn't agree with you more. Vince, please look after yourself, look after your family. I'm worried about those tornadoes still. I know things are dying down a little bit, but, still I worry about you and everybody. So please watch your back and keep us posted. All right, Vince, and take care of yourself.
You got it, Jeff. Take care.
God bless, man. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, to show you how outrageous it is. This is how outrageous it is. So they do this Zoom call. This is the administration now. And Ken Graham, who's the head of the National Weather Service, is giving kind of an update on Hurricane Milton and its expected impact and what kind of a storm, what kind of a damage, the scale of the damage and destruction that people should be expecting. Kamala Harris, among others, is on that Zoom call. And you can see her face. There's, I think, 6 faces on a screen, and the media is listening in. Well, guess what? She doesn't realize she's on a hot mic. she doesn't mute her mic. And in this briefing, she's being fed questions by her aide. She doesn't know what to ask Ken Graham. She's so incompetent. She's so incompetent. So the aide is feeding her like, here, this is what you got to ask him. Okay, you want to look smart? Here. Look. And they're giving her a sheet of paper and they're talking to her. And she gets upset at the aide. She's like, we're live. This is a live broadcast. Like, in other words, like, shut up. Don't talk to me. Roll cut 17. Mike.
Flood. We really got to watch those areas and those communities. So it takes quite a while for that water to drain.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Ken, I have a question for you. You mentioned words matter, and I know there is a lot of media following this briefing.
And then, she goes on about category 5 and a category 4, and people think there's much of a difference, but there really isn't when it comes to death and damage. But the point is, it was all staged. She's being fed. She was caught red-handed. They give her the questions, and she's upset at her aide. You can just hear it in the background. She's like, this is a live broadcast. Like, don't talk to me. They're all going to know you just fed me the questions. This woman is going to be our president over my dead body. Over my dead body. Your calls, your reaction next. 20 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868. John in Lowell. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
Morning, Jeff.
Hi, John.
Jeff, no one should ever say they didn't have a plan, because this was exactly their plan, or they wouldn't be doing it, Jeff. There's no way this is not on purpose. Trump said it best, and it encompasses a lot of things, Jeff. They're not only after me, they're after you. I'm in the way. They're trying to kill him, and now they're killing us, Jeff. And it's right in front of people's faces, and people better wake up and do it real quick. Jeff, you never touch on this. Food, water, and Jeff, you might have a house right now. You better get some alternative shelter, too. Because it's coming, Jeff, whether he wins or not. They're not going to give up. That plan's already written for him to go off in every major city and create it. They had it written in 2020. Well, when Biden won. They didn't need it, so they put it aside. Pure evil, Jeff. Pure, unadulterated evil.
Well, John, just to go back to you're saying the plan in 2020, you mean if Trump did win, that they were going to riot, burn, and loot in every city, correct?
And it's still in place, Jeff. They put it aside. We're facing some very tough times either way, Jeff. Jeff, look, all the conspiracy theory to control the weather. Jeff, it's a fact they can control it. And it's not even hard to do. So whether they control the weather to do this or not, you can put that aside. Look how they're handling it. It's intentional, Jeff.
Well, John, I got to tell you, you really put your finger on it, because that to me was it was just so shocking how blatant and how brazen and obvious they were in completely neglecting people in eastern Tennessee, in rural Georgia, in western North Carolina. They let them die. They just let them die. And you had these people who, John, you've got to see the testimony. These people are sobbing. This woman is crying, saying that, for 4 days she had no water and there was nothing from FEMA. And it was this private group, these choppers, these private helicopters, that private citizens just rented on their own. And they were dropping water supplies to her. She was all isolated in her town because of the flooding, the huge flooding. And she said, I just started to cry. I knew that they saved my life. Another day, I thought I was going to be dead. And she goes, literally, my government betrayed and abandoned me. And John, I don't want to make this about myself. I promise I'm going to get to you. But it reminds me so much during COVID I'll never forget it. Now, I don't want to compare what I had to what these poor people, in Western North Carolina are suffering, but I'll never forget. Here I have COVID. I've got it. And it was a pretty bad case. And I go to my doctor's office. Now, you're thinking, well, this is my health care. This is my doctor. These are healthcare professionals, right? They're supposed to take care of me. That's how the world works. And they look at me and they say, there's nothing I can do for you. I go, but I'm suffering from, I got COVID. Can I get ivermectin? Can I get hydroxychloroquine? They go, there's nothing we can do. Fauci's protocol. I remember how they just mindlessly repeated it. You have to go to the hospital. They're going to give you remdesivir. And after remdesivir, if that doesn't work, they're going to put you on a ventilator. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to be another statistic. I'm going to be dead. If I listen to these two nurses as they're giving me the so-called protocol, I'm dead. I'm not going to make it. Like they're going to send me to my grave. And I'll never forget that sickening feeling, John. Like the whole world just felt so inverted. The people that should be helping me, that I trust, that I believe in, literally don't care. If anything, they want me dead. And that's the same feeling I have when I look at these poor people in North Carolina. You're like, we've been paying all this money in taxes. Where's our government? Nowhere. They're leaving us here to die. And if it wasn't for the civic patriotism of ordinary citizens and volunteers, this death toll wouldn't be 235. It would be in the thousands. Final word to you, John.
Jeff, take it a step further. Not only were they not there helping people, there was many instances where they were taking stuff from the people who were trying to help. Now, how depraved is that, Jeff? Jeff, it all stems from this with me, abortion. If you have no love and no respect for a baby in a mother's womb, you have no respect and love for life whatsoever, Jeff, and you deserve to burn it out.
John, as always, thank you very much for that call. And John, don't be a stranger, my friend. Call more often. I love your calls. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, quick reset. I want to take all of your calls on the other side. Kamala Harris now says Trump is to blame for spreading misinformation and disinformation. He's the one now that is causing people to lose confidence in FEMA, in the government, and that she is the one, along with Biden and Mayorkas, who truly care about not just the victims of Hurricane Helene, but now of Milton. WRKO, Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, cleaning up the liberal bull. Okay, you're not going to believe this. Okay, you're not going to believe this. So let me just replay a cut, because trust me, it'll all make sense to you. So this is Kamala Harris. If you remember, she's on this Zoom briefing. Biden is, spearheading it. They're trying to show the country now they're ready for Hurricane Milton. Forget DeSantis. They're the ones leading the charge to make sure people in Florida are well taken care of. So they've got the director of FEMA. They've got Kamala. But the one that's really quarterbacking it is this guy called Ken Graham, who is the head of the National Weather Service. And he's giving them a briefing. Kamala now wants to look smart. So her aide is giving her questions, but she's so forgive me, she's so dumb, she's so stupid, there's just no other way to put it, she forgets to mute her mic. But she thinks if she puts her hand over her mouth and whispers to her aide that somehow the mic won't catch what she's saying. And as the aide is, telling her, he says there in the background, here are your questions. Here are your questions. Because she doesn't know what to ask. She then says, this is a live broadcast. Now, I want to replay it. You'll see exactly what I'm getting at. Roll cut 17, Mike.
Flood. We really got to watch those areas and those communities. So it takes quite a while for that water to drain.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Ken, I have a question for you. You mentioned words matter, and I know there's a lot of media following this briefing.
Okay, so the media is there, and so she's trying to look all presidential. And notice what she said. Words matter. Words matter. Now, that's part of her campaign slogan. Words matter. In other words, Trump he's a firebrand. He's a demagogue. He's a liar. He spreads misinformation. He's divisive. So, her words matter, Biden's words matter, and Trump's words are inflammatory, incendiary. So, but this is her campaign slogan. Now, listen to this. I'm not making this up. You have to hear it to believe it. She calls into the Weather Channel after this briefing. She's now the nation's meteorologist. Kamala, the meteorologist. And she calls the Weather Channel. And so they're showing images of, a Hurricane Milton now slowly making landfall. The winds are getting higher and higher. They're anticipating it's going to make landfall. And this is what she says on the Weather Channel. Roll cut 102, Mike.
The other point, Mike, that I would make, especially it came through on the briefing from the federal experts, it's really important that we think about the language that we're using to talk about what we are predicting. Because, for example, it has moved from time to time from a Category 5 to a Category 4. It's important that we not emphasize that downgrading has happened because, in fact, the difference between Category 5 and Category 4 in terms of the danger and the damage is pretty much the same. Similarly, when we're talking about the surge threat, it may have dropped, it may increase, but it's still dangerous. It's still extremely dangerous. So it's important that we communicate to folks that there may be some fluctuations around some of the levels, but we are absolutely entirely within the zone of dangerous, deadly levels, regardless of how it fluctuates within that.
Oh, well, hey. I mean, well, hey, God, Sandy, I'm voting for her. What leadership? Oh, my God. She calls into the Weather Channel and says, words matter. Language matters here. Language is really important. So she can't help but even inject a campaign slogan into this. But then, if you listen to the rest of what she says, what is she saying? That words and language, well, they don't matter. Like, forget the differences between a Category 5 and a Category 4. And for her, that was a big word, fluctuations. That's a big thing for her. That's leadership, to say fluctuations in weather. That's big for her. That means she's ready now to be president. Huh? They wrote it down for her and she read it. So she's saying, no. It doesn't matter if they go Category 3 or Category 4 or Category 5, because then the words don't matter. Because in the end, it's all dangerous. So just remember, it's dangerous. It's just really dangerous. So words don't matter. But the point is this, just to show you how, this is how politically sick this woman is. Everything has to be politicized. Everything you have to inject the campaign in. But not just that. We need her to call into the Weather Channel to act as America's weather woman, to tell us that a Category 5 hurricane is dangerous? Duh. And that, hold on, it can do, quote unquote, a lot of damage. No. Oh, my. George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, FDR, Ronald Reagan, Obama, combined. She's the GOAT. She's the greatest of all time. How could you not vote for this? This is Churchillian. She called the Weather Channel. All that was missing was, we're going to fight them on the beaches. We're going to fight them on the hills. We're going to fight them on the streets. We will never surrender. This is her idea of leadership. Having aides give her a question to ask the head of the National Weather Service and then, like a parrot, call into the Weather Channel and repeat her stupid campaign slogan and then regurgitate the most obvious, blatant point, which is hurricanes are dangerous. Ay, ay, ay. And notice, she thinks she's brilliant. She thinks she's brilliant. That's the scary thing. She's acting like she's the smartest woman in the world. Like, you know, and Mike, words matter now, Mike. Like, this is, you know, you're talking to these professional meteorologists. You know, Mike, you're talking about category 5 and category 4 and category 3. And I think you have to understand here, Mike, this is dangerous. That's all people need to understand, Mike. What is she going to do when she meets world leaders? No, really. She's meeting with Putin. She's meeting with Xi. She's whatever, sitting across from the Europeans in trade talks. I could go on and on. In front of them. Are they just going to keep slipping her questions? Here. No. Ask the Russian leader this. Here. Ask the Chinese leader. Ask Xi this. Okay, now ask him this. Okay, ask him this. And she's going to stand there and wag her finger and say, you know, America-China relations are very important. Very important. Xi, you have to understand. Relations between us are very important. And everyone's going to look around like, what are we, in the 4th grade? Like, you're stating the obvious? World leaders are going to laugh at us. Literally laugh at us if this woman becomes the next commander-in-chief. Scott in Revere. Thanks for holding, Scott, and welcome.
I love you in a non-sexual way.
Thank you, Scott. Buddy, what's on your mind?
Oh, God, Jeff. You know, listen, I cannot even fathom. Now, in 2020, right, this lady ran for president, and she got, I think, 2% of the vote, if I'm not mistaken. Now, this is 2%. She dropped out before the Iowa caucus, if I remember correctly. How in God's green earth is she getting 45% of the American vote now? The big lie from the media are the polls are close. Everything is close. That is the lie we must look out against. Because that's the big lie. They're just going to say, they're going to parrot to each other. It's close. It's close. It's close. That's what they're going to say. All the media. Till comes time, November 6th or November, when we vote. That's what they're
November
saying.
5. Yeah, election day is November 5. Scott, my prediction, you can disagree with me, obviously. I think a week or two before November 5. I don't think the media is going to be able to continue this fiction that it's close. I think her poll numbers are going to completely collapse. She's bleeding now bad, but I think it's going to bottom out. The bottom is just going to come out. And I think there's going to be no way to cover it up. What say you, Scott?
Jeff, I think the bottom's already come out. She went on The View with an $800 belt, for God's sakes. And she's claiming, she's loaning the North Carolina people, hanging from branches. God forbid. I feel so bad for these people.
Oh, you're dead on. Really, she went on The View with a belt. It was $800. Her belt is worth more than the checks that they're giving out to the people in North Carolina. Frankly, forget the check. Just give me the belt. I'm telling you, the belt is worth... You pay taxes on the check. Give me the belt. Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868 is the number. Let me ask you, it is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day. Sponsored by Mario's. Mario's quality roofing, siding, and windows. Who do you think is politicizing Hurricane Milton and Hurricane Helene? Who's politicizing it? Is it A, Biden and Harris, B, Trump and J.D. Vance. Because what Biden is saying, what Kamala is saying, what almost the entire corporate liberal media is saying, nonstop, is that it's Trump and Vance who are politicizing Hurricane Helene, the fallout in particular, and now Hurricane Milton. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, outside of telling the truth and stating the facts, what have they done wrong? To me, the ones that are clearly politicizing this and trying to use it as a cheap campaign issue to score cheap political points and demonize and defame and lie about their opponents, it's Biden and Harris. But that's me. I want to hear from you. So you can vote on our webpage, WRKO.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in national ER, WRKO.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in national ER. You can also vote via X. As you can tell, last night I was very active. My handle there, at the Kuhner Report, Kuhn as in national ER. Who is politicizing these hurricanes? A, Biden Harris, B, Trump, and J.D. Vance. 617-266-6868. Speaking of Florida, Dan in Florida. Dan, thanks for holding. And how are you?
We're great. Hey, holy smoke, we have a new hurricane whisperer, and her name is Kamala.
I mean, Dan, she's a great meteorologist. I'm telling you, nobody does the weather better than Kamala. Dan, storms are dangerous. Hurricanes are really dangerous. Dan, did you guys know that in Florida?
Okay, let me give you our summary here. Again, I'm up in Land O'Lakes, which is 20 miles north of Tampa and 20 miles inland. It's a retirement community. All the homes are new construction. They're all well elevated. Everything worked out well. I mean, the house was noisy. I told my wife, hey, think like you're on an airplane. This is like turbulence flying into Logan. You know, you've been through this before. And I walked around the house. Sun was just coming up. I can't see any damage at all to the shingles. All the hurricane panels are intact. We did not lose power. It flickered. We never lost cell service. We're up in Pasco County, Jeff. I think it's the third fastest growing county in America right now. So to the degree they're building new construction up there, these homes are going to be very safe against wind, but you got to get out of the water zones. I mean, this is going to be a tale of two Floridas, I think. The people along the coast who didn't evacuate, God help them, or were within that 10-mile cone where they had the Cat 3 winds. Everybody else, including us, got minor hurricane or gale force winds. A lot of rain on the northwest side. We must have taken 10 inches. But,
wow, that's a lot. That's a lot of rain, Dan.
But it drained it off. It all drained off. Well, the whole place looked great when I walked out there. So we're fine, Jeff. Just wanted to let you know
that's
that.
Good. That's great to hear. Dan, if you don't mind me asking, we got a call from Vince earlier, Florida, obviously different part of the state, more south of Palm Beach or West Palm Beach. But he says tornadoes, really powerful, devastating twisters, have been causing and wreaking havoc, at least in that part of the state. They hit some buildings, causing mass casualties. It looks like people are dead from the tornadoes. We don't know how many just yet. Are you seeing any of these devastating tornadoes in your neck of the woods?
Jeff, I think that was a phenomenon on the lead edge of the storm. You know, the southeast quadrant is where those usually develop. We were mostly a high wind and rain event up where we were, but I know they had the twisters down there. I didn't realize they were that serious until I heard that call. Wow.
Dan, just very quickly, what are you hearing from your neighbors, friends, family members, people in your community about how DeSantis is dealing with this and how Biden and Harris are trying to blame Trump now for everything? saying he's spewing misinformation, he's dividing people, he's frightening people, he's pitting American against American. What are you hearing? Biden and Harris say they're the ones that are coordinating everything. I'm hearing very opposite from people in Florida. They're saying this is all DeSantis. Who's right? Who's wrong?
Well, I tell you, DeSantis made a very strong statement in a press conference. It may have been aired nationally, I'm not sure. He said, hey, down here, FEMA works for us. It ain't the other way around. They're helping out, but they are not going to tell people they can't go back to their homes because people were worried about that. No. I haven't had a chance to talk to the neighbors yet. Obviously, we've been preoccupied with the weather here. My own view is it's an absolute political stunt. Was that fake Oval Office that he has across the street? I mean,
Dan, I got to tell you, man, if I'm ever in a foxhole, I'd love to. You're the guy I want to be beside. You're cool, you're calm, you're collected, you're cracking jokes. God bless you, man. You've got a great attitude. You really do. Dan, please stay safe, take care of your family, and call us back. Okay, Dan? To me, you're one of our correspondents on the ground. Dan, thank you very, very much for that call. Great attitude. You got this massive hurricane storm, and I know his home wasn't badly damaged. In fact, he said, it was hardly damaged, but still, it's it's nerve-wracking. It's a frightening experience. High winds. You got, almost 10 inches of rain. You're wondering, is a tornado going to hit my home, or am I going to get flooded? Or, you don't know as it happens. And, he's laughing, joking, taking it, just taking it all in stride. 617-266-6868. Okay, listen now to Kamala. She's now the country's weather gal. So she's now the meteorologist for America. She calls into the Weather Channel. And this is now what she's telling the Weather Channel, the meteorologists who run the Weather Channel, and everybody in America. Roll cut 100, Mike.
First of all, let me tell you that we just had a very important briefing with the head of FEMA, Homeland Security, the National Oceanic Administration, and we are ensuring that federal resources are on the ground, pre-positioned to help folks with water and food, and also obviously personnel in terms of having folks on the ground who are going to work with the local and the state authorities so that we're well coordinated. We have more than 1,000 federal personnel on the ground in Florida right now, and we're going to continue to scale up, and we're working with these incredible local leaders to prepare.
So, now notice how she's trying to make it seem that it's not DeSantis who's pre-positioning all these assets, right? It's, no, we've got our resources on the ground. FEMA's there, 1,000 personnel. It's in other words, it's me, it's Joey, it's Mayorkas. We're the ones quarterbacking and running this show. Don't you, Florida, don't forget Ron DeSantis. Ron's not doing anything. We're the ones. She's almost like trying to take credit. We're the ones who are preparing in advance for this storm. So, hey, we got your back, baby. So, now listen to her. This is the reason why she called. She gives the game away. You want to know why she called? This is why she called. Roll cut 103, Mike.
And then, of course, for the folks who are still trying to survive and recover from Hurricane Helene, don't listen to anything or anybody who's trying to make you more afraid than you already are because of what has happened. There are federal resources you are entitled to receive without condition. And there are resources that are available to you to deal with what you need right now, to, for example, get money to be able to fill your prescriptions and deal with a hotel expense. And then there are resources available to you to help you recover over the longer term.
I mean, this is unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. So now she's calling. We're not talking weather anymore. We're not talking about Hurricane Milton. Now it's, don't listen to Donald Trump. Don't listen to the people on the ground in North Carolina and Georgia who are saying we can't get any relief. They can't even apply for the $750 check because many of them don't even have internet. So she's like, oh, no, there's all this money. It's going to rain money for you guys. Don't you believe a word of it. Not a word of it. Listen now. She gets even more political. What has been her economic centerpiece? Price controls. Price gouging. Well, here's Kamala. You know what's coming. Roll cut 104. Mike.
The other point I would make is this, and I've done this work in my career. Sadly, there are some folks who, during the moment of a crisis, will be very predatory and start jacking up prices like gasoline or hotels or airlines to take advantage of the desperation people are experiencing. So to anybody who's thinking about jacking up those prices, those companies that are thinking about doing it, know that we are monitoring and we're watching. Yeah. And if there is that kind of price gouging, that there will be a consequence for that, because it's just wrong to take advantage of people who are desperate for help. And so know that we're watching that as well.
See, she's going to stop price gouging in Florida, just like she's going to stop price gouging if she's elected in November. I mean, this is pathetic. You want to talk about politicizing a hurricane? People are dead. People, they're finding them now in their homes. They drowned in a flood. Trees came crashing down, killed people in the middle of the night. They're finding elderly people who didn't leave the Tampa, Sarasota area. And you're going on about price gouging? By the way, what's it to you? According to you, the federal government's picking up the tab. That's what you just said. By the way, that's a lie. And I'm going to get to that later in the show. We've got the receipts to prove it. They're not paying for people's hotels. They're not. Okay? But let that go. If the federal government is picking up the tab, as you just said, no, hotels, we got you taken care of. Food, don't you worry about it. Gas, whatever you need, hey, we're going to pay for it. So what do you care if they're charging $200 or $300 a night for a room? I mean, it's not affecting the consumer because you're picking up the tab. You phony, you fraud, you. Think about it. If the federal government's paying for it, you think I care? Like, well, hey, look, this is disaster relief under FEMA, so I'm at the Holiday Inn now. Yep, my wife and my 2 kids, for, let's say 3 nights. Hopefully the storm will be over and the fallout. Okay, well, that'll be $900. Ooh, I thought it was normally $200 a night. Why is it $300 a night? Well, now you're price gouging. I want to call Kamala Harris. I don't care. Well, the feds are picking up the tab. Yeah, whatever it is, $900, sure. I'm getting reimbursed anyway, so what do I care? I mean, this woman's an idiot. I'm seriously. And this is the best that she can do? 617-266-6868. The more they see her face, the more she plays national weather woman, the more she goes down in the polls. Agree, disagree? David in Watertown. Thanks for holding, David, and welcome.
Thank you, Jeff.
Hi, David.
I'm wondering about the down ballot races. Donald Trump is very popular because of what he's doing, but I've been noticing that whenever he does a rally in a battleground state, he doesn't share the stage with any House or Senate candidates.
Well, David, I can just tell you what I've been reading. I can't give you more than that. Tammy Baldwin in Wisconsin is down 3 against her Republican challenger. So it looks like Wisconsin is going to go red, which means the Republicans are going to flip a seat. Montana, Tester is in big trouble. Looks like Republicans are going to flip a seat there. So Pennsylvania, McCormick and Casey, it's neck and neck. And I know that Trump has done several rallies and he showcased McCormick. So, David, I got to tell you, the way things look right now, according to the Democrats' own internal polls. At the presidential ticket, she's losing in all 7 battleground states. If things hold up now, he's at 330 Electoral College. You just need 270 to win. He's actually going to do better than he did in 2016. In fact, look, their polls are so negative and Trump's internal polls are so positive. He's doing a major rally in Madison Square Garden. They now believe New York and New Jersey are in play. And as Sandy and I were talking about yesterday after the show, if Trump wins either one of those, whether it's New Jersey or New York, it's game over. You're talking now a mother landslide. Because those are 2 really blue states. I know upstate New York is nowhere near as blue as New York City. But, I mean, Trump is within striking distance in both states. He's only behind by 3 or 4 points. If he can close it up a little bit more, that's the margin of error. So what I'm saying, David, is she's in big trouble, and they know it. That's why she had to do this media blitz. That's why she was on Colbert and Howard Stern and The View and 60 Minutes. That's why now she's playing Weather Woman and calling the Weather Channel. And everything she does, it only makes her look worse and worse. Her numbers keep going down and down. And mark my words, David, the biggest mistake she made was to criticize Ron DeSantis and his handling of Hurricane Helene and his handling now of Hurricane Milton. And going on about, he won't take my calls. He won't take my calls. By attacking and criticizing DeSantis, she made a huge mistake, maybe the biggest of her campaign. And that's what the internal polls are showing. The backlash has been immense. Immense. Now, you're talking about the down ballot races. As things stand today, the Republicans are going to they're going to take back the Senate. Schumer is sweating bullets. There's story after story now. Schumer is saying we're going to get slaughtered in the Senate races. Because under Trump, the Republicans are poised to pick up at least 3, if not 4 seats. So it's going to be a majority Republican Senate. And they're going to pick up seats in the House. So if things hold, David, we're going to have a Republican House, a Republican Senate, Trump in the White House, and then he can really implement his agenda. Now, we still got, what is it now? More than just over 3 weeks to go. Anything can happen. Democrats are going to try to steal it. There are other variables. But down ballot races look strong. Trump looks strong. And the Democrats are in panic mode. Final word to you, David.
I have an X account that you follow, and I'm also followed by a House candidate in Pennsylvania. How do you see that state?
Well, Pennsylvania, right now, the governor, Josh Shapiro, has now told Kamala she's going to lose the state, that she's losing that state. Mark Halperin, who's a liberal, but a very well-known, respected political analyst, said, look, Kamala's people showed me, I guess he's got access to the campaign, what their private polling shows. And they're starting to tell her you're not going to win Pennsylvania. In fact, David, what they're doing now is they're saying, well, okay, what's the math if we lose Pennsylvania? What do we need to win to still mathematically get to 270 in the Electoral College? And what they're saying is, if we can win Nevada and win Georgia, that will make up for Pennsylvania. So they're already inside the campaign. I don't want to say concede, but they're already starting to lay out the scenario. Pennsylvania now may be a bridge too far. And I'll tell you what broke their back, David, very quickly. Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, the suburbs now are going Trump. But the big one is these working class suburbs in Philadelphia have now turned decisively for Trump. And the only way Democrats can win Philadelphia in a presidential election, they've got to win Philadelphia and Pittsburgh big. Big. And Trump is now blunting them in the suburbs. And that's why Shapiro is saying it's too many votes to make up. I mean, it's too much now. You know, what are we going to do? Make up 1 million votes? So they're on the verge of conceding Pennsylvania. So Pennsylvania looks great for Trump. The down ballot races look very, very good. Very good. McCormick is not the most charismatic candidate. I don't have to tell you that. But Casey's in trouble. I think Trump is going to carry McCormick over the finish line. And these down ballot races, I'm very confident about Pennsylvania. To be honest, I'm very confident now about every state with the exception of Nevada. Something is happening in Nevada. It's too close for my liking. But outside of Nevada, David, I feel very, very good. David, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868. Now, again, who knows what the Democrats have up their sleeve? We know they're obsessed with stealing elections. They've got an impressive voting fraud machine. So, you know, all of that, you know, take all of this with a grain of salt. But look, if the Democrats are panicking, and apparently now senior official to Kamala, they're yelling and screaming behind closed doors, saying this is 2016 all over again. Like, who cares about the popular vote? Trump is killing us in the battleground and all these pivotal swing states. So if this continues to hold up, Trump looks very, very good. In fact, I've got a story for you, a log on the fire. Trust me, you want to hear it next. On the great WRKO, Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay. To show you the full panic that the Democrats are now in because of their own internal polls, you had Tampon Tim, Tiananmen Tim Waltz, at a fundraiser in California, now openly call for abolishing the Electoral College. In other words, let's just scrap it. Let's get rid of it. Why? Because they realize, oh no, yeah, we're going to rack up big wins in states like California or Illinois or Washington and Oregon. And so that'll look good in terms of the national popular vote because so many of these moonbats live in heavily concentrated areas. But when you're dealing with the Electoral College map, that's when they're in trouble. And so it looks like Trump is going to take Wisconsin, Michigan, Georgia, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Arizona. We'll see about Nevada. But the point is, because the battleground states are now really starting to turn towards Trump, now they're already doing their sour grapes. We've got to abolish the Electoral College. So it's pretty obvious what's going on. But even more importantly, Kamala Harris is asking for a debate with Trump. If she was doing well, if she was leading, if she was confident about the steal, she wouldn't be pushing for another debate. So much so, listen to this, they're even open to the possibility of a debate on Fox News. And so Fox reached out to President Trump's and President Trump's team, to President Trump and his people. And they said, hey, look, we think we can rope Kamala's people into agreeing that we'll do a debate on Fox because she's desperate now. The momentum is all behind Trump. He's starting to move the needle. She's starting now to fall behind. She's got to stop the hemorrhaging and the bleeding. She's in a downward spiral. So she needs to shake it up with a debate and hopefully go for a knockout blow. Here is what Trump wrote in response. Fox News made a debate offer. Here was what Trump wrote. And let me read it first, and then I'll give you my quick analysis and go right back to you. Quote, I won the last two debates, one with Crooked Joe, the other with Lion Kamala. I accepted the Fox News invitation to debate Kamala on September 4th, but she turned it down. J.D. Vance easily won his debate with Tampon Tim Waltz, who called himself a knucklehead. I am also leading in the polls, with the lead getting bigger by the day. And I am leading in all swing states. The first thing a prize fighter does when he loses a fight is say that he demands a rematch. It is very late in the process. Voting has already begun. There will be no rematch. Besides, Kamala stated clearly yesterday that she would not do anything different than Joe Biden. So there's nothing to debate. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Donald J. Trump. His own polls are showing he's now got a decisive lead. He's in the driver's seat. And so he and his people are saying, why would you debate? Why? The momentum is now all behind you. The wind is at your back. She's the one who desperately needs this debate. Don't give it to her. 617-266-6868. And by the way, I think Trump's response was brilliant. Almost to a comma. I think it's the perfect response. And he's right. The coup de grace, the final blow, was when he said, hey, she went on The View and said, I wouldn't do anything different than Joe Biden did. Nothing on any major issue. So what is there to debate? You want me, or do you want 4 more years of Bidenism? You want this to continue for another 4 years? Vote for her. You want peace and prosperity? Vote for me. Mel in New York. Thanks for holding, Mel, and welcome.
Hey, good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Mel.
Hi. There's 3 things I'd like to speak about. One is Hillary, Eric Holder, and the steal. You mentioned last week about President Trump could make a deal with these treasonous pigs, Hillary, Biden, and Kamala, that to keep them from having to face prosecution for the treasonous acts that they've committed. I kind of think that you have to make an example of people like that for no one else to do what they've done. They definitely should be and must be prosecuted for what they've done to this country by opening.
Mel, can you please, you're really raising a super important question and a very important point. Please hang on, Mel. I'm up against a hard break. I'm going to come right back to you. Take all of your calls. 617-266-6868. Don't touch that dial. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I'm going to go to Mel in New York in just a second. Getting a lot of reaction from people about these Democrat internal polls. Kamala's panicking. That's why they want this debate with Fox. Trump has turned him down, saying, why? I'm winning, you're losing. Why should I even bother to debate you? And also some of these down ballot races. Dave in Pennsylvania, in fact, he lives just in the Pittsburgh area, is a regular, frequent caller to our show. In some ways, our correspondent in PA just messaged me maybe about 15 minutes ago saying, Jeff, Trump up big in Pennsylvania. McCormick, the Republican Senate candidate, who is challenging Democratic Senator Bob Casey, the incumbent, is apparently up by 2 points. So that could be a big flip for Republicans in their quest to control the Senate. So again, look, I don't want to get overconfident. I don't want to say it's in the bag. Nothing is in the bag. But this is why they're going berserk. This is why they're lashing out at Trump. This is why they're yelling and screaming. This is why they're trying to paint him as evil orange man, spreading misinformation, because Hurricane Helene, Hurricane Milton, their pathetic, disastrous, ineffective response is now moving the needle. Clearly, Trump now has the wind at his back, and he's gaining more support while Kamala is in free fall. Hence, the panic. Let's go right back to Mel in New York. Mel, please pick up where you left off.
Okay. Yeah, one other thing, the bookmakers in Vegas, they've got Trump in a runaway. But to go back what I was saying about Hillary and those that have committed all of these crimes of treason, you have to make an example of these people, because if somebody else is going to do it again, their party will try it all over again. But Eric Holder, I understand, he's putting together a team of attorneys to legalize or take this if President Trump does win, tie him up in court over the election. And this Eric Holder is another one has to answer for whatever they've done. He's done with Obama, and that what was it? The steal. I mean, they don't care. I mean, they're doubling it down. They know they know they've got it. If they don't steal, I mean, it's in the bag for them. They're gonna steal. That's why they don't give a darn about us, we the people, and those who have been affected by this weather manipulation and these hurricanes that they've created. And Biden even said that he can intensify these not he, but whoever they've got on their side to intensify these hurricanes and make them more dangerous. But it's the point that all of these mother flippers in that illegal regime, they know that they're going to be prosecuted for what they've done when President Trump does win. He appoints an attorneys general to go after these criminals. They got a lot to lose. Their lifestyle, their all the money they've amassed. I mean, how can you amass this kind of money, especially Biden, with on a salary, a Senate salary? He's been in the Senate, for ever since Strom Thurmond and Jesse Helms, who took him under their wing. The guy, and those guys were about racists. They could care less about black people. And now that they don't care what color you are, if you're on the right, they want to get you. And what happens in South Carolina, West Tennessee, and Florida, in those red districts, they'll stop at nothing to keep their. Well,
Mel, look, you nailed it, Mel. You absolutely hit the nail on the head as usual. Look, to me, this is what I thought. This is why her numbers are crumbling. This is the problem now they have. That's why they're trying. That's why they're basically doing the whole. Are you going to believe us or your lying eyes? Because all of the testimony of all these victims, as you pointed out, saying, where was the help? Where was FEMA? Where was Biden? Where was Mayorkas? Where was, where were they? Nowhere. And it's not just that they didn't deliver any aid, which is bad enough, but they deliberately tried to prevent aid from getting in. Look, there's now story after story, video after video, testimony from people in real time saying we've got Black Hawk helicopters who are flying very low. They do like what's called a rotor wash, where they just whip up so much wind as they get close to the ground and supplies start flying everywhere. Water bottles, food, crates of supplies are being destroyed so that they can't deliver the aid. You have people in private helicopters saying FEMA is threatening to jail us. Why? Because we're actually saving lives. And we're dropping in supplies and rescuing people. So what do you want? Let them die? Is that what you want us to do? So the evidence is so irrefutable and so overwhelming. And remember, I said this a while back. I said, Mel, trust me, I've got people in North Carolina and Georgia. I don't want to give away any names, but I've got a lot of people, some of them associated with this show. They've got friends, they've got family, they've got contacts all over the state. They're saying you don't understand the anger, the bitterness, the frustration, frankly, the resentment, the fury. Not just those in the affected areas, those in the unaffected or unimpacted areas as well, saying they're leaving people high and dry. They're letting them twist in the wind. And I said, mark my words, she just kissed away Georgia and kissed away North Carolina. And that's what the internal polls now show. They're in big blanking trouble. And that's why now everything is misinformation. You criticize them, misinformation. You expose FEMA, misinformation. You state the obvious like J.D. Vance. When Hurricane Helene hit on September 26, where was Joe Biden? At his beach home in Rehoboth. Yes, no, yes. Okay, where was Kamala? Well, she was partying in Hollywood, doing glitzy fundraisers. Yes. Where was Mayorkas? In L.A., at an awards ceremony. So nobody was running the show. Everybody knew Helene was coming. We had constant warning. We knew it was going to be a severe storm. It turned out to be a devastating hurricane, and they didn't care. And then they didn't care for 2 days, for 3 days, for 4 days, for 5 days, for a week, for 10 days. Trump was there within 2 days. Here, as I speak to you now, what's Trump doing? In Miami, at his resort in Doral, at his hotel, 275 linemen, 275 blue-collar guys that are going to be in charge of bringing up power plants. They're already now working. Stay for free at his hotel. Guys, whatever you need, I'm going to take care of you. Why? Because you guys are going to get the power up. Just to give you an example, who was bringing in the food? It was Trump and Franklin Graham and Samaritan's Purse, but it was an Elon, and Trump was coordinating the whole thing. So in the absence and vacuum of FEMA, Trump stepped up to the plate, and all of a sudden now he's the bad guy. He's Mr. Misinformation because he's saying you guys didn't do anything, man. If it wasn't for us, it wouldn't be 230 dead. It'd be 1,230 dead. So you nailed it. They don't care about us. They've proven it now with their actions. Over. They didn't care about East Palestine. They didn't care about our people in Afghanistan. They didn't care about the 13 Marines who got blown up. Biden is looking at his watch as the caskets are there with the flag. Kamala couldn't even show up. She didn't even show up. At least show up. Play stupid. Show up. Shake hands. Pretend like you care. So it's obvious they hate us. And the country knows they hate us. And what I find remarkable from all of these liberals, Mel, when someone keeps spitting in your face, puh, and they say, well, vote for me. Why should we vote for you? You hate us. You tell us every day that you hate us. All you do is call us Nazis and racists and white supremacists and deplorables and a threat to democracy and an enemy of the state and an enemy of the people. And then they say, but they're not voting for us. Well, and why? Mel, as always, thank you very, very much for that call. So you kiss away Middle America, you insult Middle America, you defame Middle America, and then you start panicking. You're looking at the polls, and you're like, oh my God, we've lost Arizona. Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, it's all going to hell. Well, look in the mirror. You've got no one to blame but yourself. Agree, disagree, all of your calls next. On the great WRKO, Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, something is starting to change. You can feel it now, not just here in this country, but around the world. And just very quick, I know the lines are jammed. I promise I'm going to get to the phone lines, but you need to hear this. Our corrupt corporate media doesn't want you to know any of this. Bild magazine, it is one of the most prestigious media outlets in Germany. Highly reliable, highly credible. I don't always agree with them, but their information is rock solid. They are now reporting, and this is coming straight now from the Chancellery of Germany. So the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz is now telling Bild magazine that Zelensky is about to meet Scholz in Germany, and that Zelensky, the leader of Ukraine, now says it's time for a ceasefire. It's time for a ceasefire. He wants the war to end. He's now calling for a ceasefire, a negotiated settlement with Russia. And what Bild is reporting is that he's saying this because he's now telling people in private Trump is going to win. And I'm adding this part, and the money laundering is going to stop. Now, he's not saying that. I'm adding that. But what he's telling people is, no, we're not stupid. Trump is going to win. We can see it. Let's get ready for a peace deal. Let's get ready for a ceasefire. Let's get ready for a settlement. Now, Mel talked about how very powerful people are petrified at the prospect of Trump winning. Again, please, you need to know this. Elon Musk, it's almost a must-listen-to interview. Okay, and look, I shouldn't be plugging someone else's podcast because, Sandy's going to get rightfully mad at me. Upper management is going to be rightfully mad at me because they're going to be like, Jeff, what are you, Tucker Carlson's ad man now? But I have to, if I'm not here to tell you the truth, what's the point of me being behind this microphone? Elon Musk, and I rarely say this, gave a must-listen-to interview on Tucker's podcast. I mean, very few things are must-listen. This was truly must-listen on multiple levels. One, he's saying, if we lose in November, if Trump loses, I'm going to jail. He goes, Tucker, I want you to know, they're going to put me behind bars the way they're trying to put Trump behind bars. They're going to unleash lawfare against you, Tucker, against me, against any major opinion leader that poses a threat to the regime, and back Donald Trump. But the more important one is when he talked about why all of these billionaires and oligarchs are backing Kamala Harris. And in a nutshell, here is what Elon said on the record, not off, on the record. He said, what is astonishing, how the uber wealthy and all of these billionaire globalists are all in for Kamala Harris. He says it's not just her policies and the fact that they can control her. He says you really want to know the ultimate real reason. It's much more nefarious and evil than that. Trump has promised once he gets into office, he is going to release the Epstein list. The list of all of those pedophiles and sexual predators who went to Jeffrey Epstein's infamous, forgive me, Orgy Island or Fantasy Island as it was called, whereby all of these very powerful people, famous people, were caught on tape molesting and having sex with underage children. And he says, let me name 2 names that I'm telling you are worried about this list, i.e. they're on the list. Bill Gates, this is now what Elon Musk said, Bill Gates and Reid Hoffman. Gates, you all know. Reid Hoffman is a massive, major Democrat mega donor. He bankrolled Hillary Clinton. He bankrolled Joe Biden. He's now bankrolling Kamala Harris. He's the guy that funded most of the lawfare against Trump. So what Elon is saying is it wasn't just ideological that they tried to put him behind bars and prevent him from being on the ballot. He goes, no, their personal self-interest is at stake. If Trump wins and releases the Epstein list, these are pedophiles who have committed unspeakable crimes, and they're going to go to jail. They need to take Trump out. They can't let him win in November. Now, these are 2 massive names. There's going to be a lot more on that list. It's going to be media people. It's going to be Hollywood people. It's going to be leading senior Democrats. I wouldn't be shocked if Bill Clinton, for example, is on that list. In fact, I always guarantee you that Bill Clinton is on that list. I want to know who else is on that list. Oligarchs, billionaires, the most powerful of our powerful, the most powerful of our elites are on that list. They can't let that list get out. That's why they fear and hate Donald Trump. Now, I want to read to you a text and go right to the phone lines. 617-266-6868. This may be one of the most brilliant texts I've ever received. And it is completely accurate. It's from 781. And now this text literally encompasses everything you need to know. Jeff, Iran wants Harris. China wants Harris. Russia wants Harris. Ukraine wants Harris. The UN wants Harris. The WHO wants Harris. Davos, the World Economic Forum, wants Harris. The military-industrial complex wants Harris. The intelligence agencies want Harris. Dick Cheney wants Harris. Liz Cheney wants Harris. The people want Donald Trump. Never in my lifetime, and maybe never before in American history, have we ever seen an election like this, where all of the elites, corporate, political, cultural, including all of our adversaries and enemies, all of them, Iran, China, Russia, Putin said, we want Harris. He's openly called for Harris to win. Ukraine, it doesn't matter. They all want Harris. But the people want Donald Trump. This election is about the people versus the elites. And I believe that's why we're going to win. The Democrats and the left are very strong on top, but they're thin on the ground. We're the exact opposite. We're very thin on top. We don't control the universities. We don't control the media. We don't control the government. We don't control corporate America. We certainly don't control all these globalist institutions. But we're very thick on the ground. And that's our decisive edge. Heather in Rockland. Thanks for holding, Heather, and welcome.
How are you today?
I'm very good. How are you, Heather?
Good. Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure.
I had a question. Also, I just wanted to say that my bridge friends, the Front Street Bridge in Weymouth, we did a little fundraiser to get stickers to write in Jeffrey Deal for Massachusetts Senate. Just FYI out there, we're going to try to write him in in November.
Yes, Heather. No, I've seen that. I've seen it on Facebook. I've seen it on X. People have been emailing me about it. I know there's a lot of dissatisfaction with John Deaton and his campaign and the way he's running his campaign. And
I promised my friends I would not.
I'm sorry, Heather. Can you repeat that?
I said I promised the bridge friends that I would mention it when I called. So.
Yes. Thank you for mentioning that. I really appreciate it, Heather.
So, so my question is, with a little less than a month left for the election, now with this hurricane, do you think, and I think I know the answer, I know it's kind of a stupid question, but if they come out, like if the Kamala and Biden administration come out and actually do something with the Florida hurricanes, like actually, show that they're helping, do you think it will move the needle a little bit?
No. The damage has already been done.
That's what I thought, too.
There's no question. And to be honest, Heather, this is why they can't, how do I say this? They're trying to Bigfoot DeSantis, and it's just not working. That's why she's calling into the Weather Channel, acting like as America's, national weather woman, and saying, oh no, we're pre-positioning assets. We're putting FEMA on the ground. We're the ones getting ready for this hurricane. Everybody in Florida knows this is all DeSantis. It's a DeSantis operation from top to bottom. So they're not going to get any credit for whatever they do in Florida. It's going to go all rightfully to DeSantis. And the damage has already been done in Georgia and in North Carolina. And look, Heather, she's got a deeper problem. And I'd love to get your take on this. Every interview now that she's done, this is what their internal polls show. She went on Colbert. Her numbers went down. She went on Calling Her Daddy podcast. She's talking to rabid pro-feminists, pro-abortion feminists. Her numbers went down. She went on Howard Stern. Her numbers went down. She went on The View. Her numbers went down. So first they said avoid the media. Then they said, okay, do the big media blitz, do the media. But softball after softball after softball. And it's blowing up in their face. And Heather, I think this is her problem now. She's a complete phony and a fraud. She doesn't know who she is. She doesn't know what she is. She doesn't know what she stands for. That's why she can't give a simple, coherent response or answer to any question. Because she's trying to be part Obama, part Biden, part AOC. For example, she went on Stephen Colbert. She introduced a new accent. I'm not kidding. She put on this Jamaican accent that no one ever heard of before. So she comes across as a synthetic, completely fake, artificial candidate. And that's why she's so dislikable. And that's her problem. People listen to her and they cringe. They go, she's just such a fraud. Like such an obvious fraud. And that's her problem. She's dislikable. Like you listen to her and you're like, I can't stand her. She's so fake. She's so obviously fake. So what do you do with a candidate like that? You can't put him out there. You hide him in the basement, it's bad. You put him out there, it's bad. And she's been so deliberately vague and so deliberately manipulative and so deliberately not answering questions and frankly now so obviously stupid and dumb that you're seeing now everything is breaking towards Trump. Everything. It's going to get to the point, Heather. We're about 3.5 weeks out. Give it 10 more days. And the Democrats are going to say, let's try to save the down ballot races. They're going to basically say, forget it. We're going to go to Trump's coming back in. We'll just try to, we'll try to derail him and attack him and stop him and block him and sabotage him when he's president, like we did the first time. And let's try to save the Senate and the House. Because she's such, I don't want to put it this crudely, but she's such a god-awful candidate. And just so that you know, Heather, to be fair to the Democrats, to give the devil their due, when she ran in 2019, she finished dead last. She finished dead last. She didn't make it to Iowa. She couldn't get one vote. When Joe Biden said he was not going to run, when they knocked him out, when they implemented that coup, there was a poll among Democrats. She finished 12th out of 12 candidates. So just a couple of months ago, the Democrats never wanted her. Even among Democrats. Okay, Biden said he's not running anymore. They wanted Gavin Newsom. They wanted Michelle Obama. They wanted Hillary Clinton. They wanted Roy Cooper out of North Carolina, who's now a complete loser. But the governor of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer, they threw her out. They had literally 12 people ahead of her. So they didn't just overthrow Biden. They replaced him with the least, most disliked candidate among the Democrats. That's why she's going down. I don't know about you. I listen to her. It's like nails on a chalkboard. She's revolting. Everything that comes out of her mouth is disgusting. I find her cackling annoying. Honestly, I find her insulting as a candidate. She should not be there. She has no right to be there. And that's what the American people are now concluding. Final word to you, Heather.
Well, I agree. I can't even listen to her for 2 seconds. She annoys me so much. I can't even handle listening to her because and I agree with you. She's totally insulting. My question is, or my comment is, and I talk about this with my friends, like, what I don't understand is how, like, are the people, like, who hate Trump, the Trump haters, gonna, like, change? Because I feel like that's like somebody like the Trump haters saying to us, oh, like, wanting us to change to vote for Kamala. I mean, like, those people I don't think you can persuade to switch. So it's like the undecided. Is there a lot more undecided than, like, the diehard, like, Trumpers and the diehard liberals? Is there a lot
Heather,
more?
look,
you know what I'm?
Yes, no, it's you've laid it out beautifully. 45 to 46, maybe 47% of the country are diehard anti-Trumpers. And you've got about 47% of the country are diehard pro-Trump. And so what we're really fighting over is that 5 or 6% in between the two camps. And that's now what is swinging decisively in Trump's favor. So that's why people are saying, well, Jeff, why is the election this close? The reason why the election is this close, and there's only one reason, and really, to be fair to Kamala, really, what does her campaign come down to? She's not Trump. Like, that's her, literally, I'm telling you, that's her campaign. And abortion. Again, a radical on abortion. Okay, it's abortion. But let that go. Really, this is it. I'm not Donald Trump, so vote for me. And when you ask people, why are you voting for her? She's not Trump. Like, that's it. That's not enough to win. It's just not. Hate is not enough to win an election. And that's what they're running on. Pure, unadulterated hatred. Now, it's going to be closer than you and I would like. To me, this should be 1980 or even 1972 when Nixon annihilated McGovern and Reagan just cleaned Carter's clock. I think the popular vote's going to be fairly close, but the Electoral College, Trump is now starting to run away with it because most people in that middle zone, they worry about the price of gas, food, groceries, utilities. Really, honestly, my energy bill, National Grid is killing me. I'm serious. It's doubled, if not tripled. It's killing me and my family. Illegal immigration is killing this country. So crime. So that's why polls consistently show big majority on the economy and the border. Trump beats her decisively. And now when we see just how inept and ineffective she is and how dislikable she is, people hate her a lot more than they hate Trump. And that's why Trump's numbers now are going up, and her numbers are now starting to bottom out. So they don't have enough anti-Trumpers to win. It makes it closer because it's just, they hate the guy. It's rabid hatred. So it's uncomfortably close. But now, Heather, their campaign is in free fall. They blew it. They picked, I don't think anybody would have beaten Trump, but they clearly picked the worst possible candidate to challenge Trump. And now they're going to reap the whirlwind. Heather, what say you? Last word to you, Heather.
I agree with you. That's always my concern. It was like, how do you who is out there? Like, is it the middle people that we're targeting and the uninformed? So the uninformed, like, where are they getting their information? Because we all know the uninformed listen, watch the mainstream media. So that's the other thing. How do they switch? How do you get the uninformed voter? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Well, the problem is many of the uninformed, well, some of them are going to vote for Kamala, obviously. But no, they're on social media. They're on TikTok. They're on Instagram. They're on X. And look, they see what's happening with Hurricane Helene. You know, like they're like, this is a disaster. They go to the grocery store and they go, it's not getting better. It's getting worse. Rent is higher. Mortgages are higher. Look, again, I don't want to go on about National Grid. We just got the bill. What was it? A week ago? 10 days ago? My eyes popped out of my skull. I couldn't believe it. I go to my wife and I said, how can people afford? I need another job. We were joking. We need a third job just for National Grid. So in the end, they've so crushed the middle and working class. They can be low information all you want. They get the bills. They got to pay the bills. They go to the gas pump. They go grocery shopping. They go out to eat. They have to live. And this is just unsustainable. And Trump's got the ace in the hole. The checkmate argument. I did it already. You want low inflation? I did it. A booming economy? I did it. Higher take-home pay? I did it. A secure border? I did it. I know. Jeff. You're like a broken record. It's true. I don't know what else to tell you. 9:20 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. Okay, this is exactly what they're seeing now in the internal polls. This is why Kamala's in a full panic. The Democrats now are apoplectic, and Trump is supremely confident. In fact, as I said now, he's making a play for New York and New Jersey. Big rally in Madison Square Garden coming up soon. They believe they can pick off one of those two states. If they do, this thing is over. Put a fork in it. This is from Al on Messenger. And he's right. This is exactly what the Democrats' private polls are now saying. Jeff, the male Democrats will never tell you they're voting for Trump, but they're going to vote for Trump. They don't like Kamala. Bingo. That's exactly what the Democrats' internal polls show. It's not just, working class white men. No. White men in general, black men, Latino men, Asian men, it doesn't matter. She's getting killed with the male vote. And it seems, the educated, college-educated, suburban, white, liberal feminist, yes. Some of the college students, yes. The welfare deadbeats, yes. Black women still seem to be holding up, for the most part, for Kamala. But that's not enough to win. She's now completely hemorrhaging support among men, and especially Democratic men. Black men, Latino men, Asian men, white men across the board. And that's why she's going down. Bob in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Bob, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure, Bob.
Hey, you were talking earlier about Kamala on the world stage.
Yes.
Well, let me tell you, I don't know if you've seen this. There is a video on YouTube with her, was a press conference with her and the Polish president. And they asked her about, the refugees from Ukraine, what they're going to do about it. She turns to the Polish president and says, "A friend in need is a friend indeed," and she starts cackling. This is Kamala on the world stage. I don't know why this isn't on TV and on the ads and everything else. It's unbelievable. She's a buffoon.
Well, Bob, I remember Mike was in my ear as you were talking, and he's right. He said, "Jeff, we played that when it happened." And I don't know if you see the face of the Polish president. He couldn't believe it. He was stunned. He was looking at her like, "Are you serious? This is a major war. People are dying. Ukrainians are dying. Russians are dying. Millions of refugees are pouring into my country. And you're laughing and cackling like this is a joke?" You can just see it on his face. Like he was thunderstruck. He couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe it. And Bob, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Like, really, what happens if she meets with Putin, as an example, or Xi, or I could go on, Little Rocket Man, or we could just go on. And what? They got to feed her questions? Her staff has got to be with her, and she doesn't know what to say, and they're like, okay, here, Kamala, ask him this. Okay, now, Kamala, ask him this. Okay, now, Kamala, no, stop. You have to say this. Read this. Just read off the cue card. Bob, no self-respect. Forget the United States of America. I'm not kidding. Venezuela wouldn't vote for her. The Congo, I'm not trying to insult the Congo. I'm just telling you, the Congo wouldn't vote for her. The Liechtenstein wouldn't vote for her. No self-respecting country, but this is our leader? And you got to hold her hand and feed her the questions? She's clearly not qualified. That's it. The full stop. And that's why, Bob, you don't protect a senile buffoon in the White House who has got dementia and then keep him hanging until he gets destroyed in a debate and exposed, and then implement a coup, and then not have a primary to pick a successor. So this is what happens. They forced Kamala on the whole country. And I hope the Democrats pay an immense price. Because just the fact that she's the candidate, just that alone, has turned this country into a laughingstock. Bob, the world is laughing at us that we're even considering electing this imbecile. I'm sorry, but she's an idiot. Like, I don't know what else to say. Airhead is too nice a word for her. Bob, final word to you. Agree, disagree?
Agree. You know, I think the only reason why they put her in there is because there was a lot of money tied up that was going to Biden. If they put someone else in there, they would have lost all that campaign money.
That's a great point.
Now, keep that, they put her in there, and they just, the media, of course, is going to be right behind them, and they they hated her. Then all of a sudden, she's the greatest thing since sliced bread.
See, and that's the propaganda that they just couldn't pull off. They kept selling her, and you can't sell her. That's the problem. And now they're reaping the consequences. Bob, great call. 617-266-6868. More next. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868. You can also text us 70470. And as always, the Kuhner Man can be reached on Messenger. This is from David on Messenger. And I'm telling you, this is another big problem Kamala has that she just can't escape from. Good morning, Jeff. Well, good morning to you, David. Thanks. I find Kamala's voice very irritating, annoying, and always condescending to others, as if we're all stupid. She's going to have a big wake-up call when the votes are counted, and Trump will be our president. Amen, brother. She talks to everybody, especially voters, like they're 5-year-olds. Have you noticed that? Like we're all stupid little children. It's just she's arrogant, she's pedantic, she's condescending. It really, again, she's insulting. This is her core problem. She's a horrible candidate. I think it's because she's a horrible person. And that just comes across, and she's not good at hiding it or masking it. But she's such an off-putting candidate. Now, you need to hear this. Okay, this is breaking stuff. To show you how effective DeSantis was in dealing with Hurricane Milton. And it's like a tale of two leaders and a tale of two states. And really a tale of two governors. Listen, compare this to DeSantis with Milton and Roy Cooper, the Democrat, who's the governor of North Carolina. They didn't even send in the military or the National Guard until a week after Hurricane Helene. A week. It just is breaking right now. As the storm was hitting Tampa, Sarasota, parts of Florida last night, DeSantis ordered rescue crews in the wind, in the rain, in the hurricane. And it looks like they pulled off over 100 rescues. As the storm, literally, the storm is, the storm, is in a hurricane. It's wind and 100-mile-an-hour winds. And he's like, I don't care. These people are in danger. These are my people. We're going to save them, rescue them, get in there. He literally was saving lives as the hurricane hit. Not a week later, sending the National Guard as the hurricane hit. And now they're looking at least 100 rescues. Now they've got rescue operations all over the state. So what is it now? 3 hours after the storm has now left Florida, boom. I mean, they've got recovery, rescue, blanketing the entire state. Yet Kamala Harris, and I'm telling you, this is what did her, trust me when I tell you this, historians 50, 100 years from now are going to say, this is what broke the back of her campaign. She could not recover from this mistake. Is when she said she was trying to call him. She kept trying to call him. He wasn't taking her calls. He needs to take her calls. How dare he not take her calls? Because by not taking her calls, he's not showing political leadership. He's playing politics and gamesmanship. And when he came out and said, she's never called me in 3.5 years. This woman is going to teach me how to save lives, how to deal with a hurricane. So I'm trying to save every life possible. And she's the one who's politicizing this and saying, why isn't he picking up the phone? He needs to speak to me. I'm Kamala Harris. I've never done anything productive or useful in my entire life. Listen now to Ron DeSantis. This is the dagger that has put her campaign away. Roll cut 10, Mike.
I heard what you said about Vice President Harris and the phone call. Did she ever get through?
Brett, like I said, my job is to marshal resources and work with everybody to have an effective response. And she thinks it should be about her. If I honestly thought that there was something to be gained, I would pick up the phone and call her. The fact of the matter is she has no role in this process. She's not part of the chain of command. I am working with President Biden and FEMA and our state and local partners, and we're getting the job done. She has never been interested in any of the storms we've had in the state of Florida for her entire time as vice president. Now she's out there attacking me because I'm not catering to her whims. All she's trying to do is inject herself to be a part of her political campaign. I don't have time for political games. We've got a job to do. We got people's lives on the line, and that is our sole focus.
He destroyed her. I'm telling you, he destroyed her. That's what the country is seeing. He destroyed her. He politically decapitated her. Okay, politically, he took her head off. That's what he did. Because people were like, hey, look, man, hey, lives are at stake here. You're playing with human lives now. You can't mess around with stuff like this. And she's trying to turn this into a political campaign to help her. And you're literally now obstructing the governor and getting in his way and preventing him from being able to do his job by inserting yourself into something you have no business being involved in. This, and I'm telling you, this is the one she can never live down. Milton is barreling down. Helene's victims are begging for help. And she's on Stephen Colbert, laughing, giggling, cackling, cracking jokes, and opening up a beer. And she and Colbert are like, cheers, sipping the beer and laughing. The Washington Post has come out with an editorial saying this is now going to cost her the election. That she has now no one to blame but herself. That this is so disconnected from reality. That this has been such a disaster in the way she's handled this. So politically tone deaf. So utterly politically indifferent and callous. That now they're saying she is kissing this election goodbye. That's her allies in their official editorial. Listen now to Kamala. She's sipping some beer, and she's having a grand old time with Stephen Colbert as Milton is roaring towards Tampa, Sarasota, and Florida. Roll cut 15. Mike.
One of the old saws is, they just want somebody they can have a beer with. So would you like to have a beer with me so I can tell people what that's like? Okay. This was... Now, we asked ahead of time because I can't just be giving a drink to the Vice President of the United States without asking. You asked for Miller High Life. You asked for Miller High Life. I'm just curious.
Okay, the last time I had beer was at a baseball game with Doug.
So cheers.
Cheers.
There you go. Ooh. That tastes like the beautiful city of Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Champagne and beers.
There you go.
I mean, people are dying. People don't have power in food and water. Last time I had a beer was with Dougie. But then he saw his ex-girlfriend and he slapped her around a little bit. But anyway, she's an idiot. She's a doofus. The biggest political doofus, I'm telling you, to ever run for president of the United States. And that's why the polls have now turned against her. Dave in Beverly. Thanks for holding, Dave, and welcome.
Jeff, you got your old friend, the Italian Stallion, on the line, baby.
The Italian Stallion, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, my friend?
Good. Hey, I'm happy I'm not in Florida right now, Dave.
Me too. But I'll tell you something. I got a new idea for CNN. A brand new idea how they can do their broadcast and cover the market. Okay? They can do the news with Sleepy Joe Biden, traffic with Bill from Sudbury, sports with Ben in North Andover, and weather with Kamala. What do you think? Jeff?
Dave, you want to do an imitation because you're so good at imitations of Kamala doing the weather? America's weather gal.
We gotta go. Oh, let me have a sip of my beer.
Dave, thank you very much for that call, my friend. Tom, red, white, and blue dynamite baby in New Jersey. Thanks for holding, Tom, and welcome.
Jeff Kuhner, the Kuhner Report. This is where America goes to just say no to censorship. That's red, white, and blue dynamite, baby.
Thank you, Tom. Buddy, what do you make of all this?
Hey, Jeff, I have the October surprise. Here it is, buddy. Laughing gas, marijuana Harris. I think the surprise is going to be...
Tom, we're up against a break. We're at a cliffhanger. Let's keep everybody in suspended animation. We're going to come right back, and Tom is going to tell us, don't touch that dial. Tom says there's an October surprise coming. Let's see what it is. 9:49 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. Let's go right back to Tom, red, white, and blue dynamite baby in New Jersey. Tom, you said an October surprise is coming, and then we got cut off by the break. Please finish your thought, my friend.
Thank you, Jeff Kuhner. Jeff, I think in order to secure the pothead and the drunk vote, Kamala's got to do one thing. She's got to fire wimpy, self-deprecating knucklehead Walz. She's going to hire Eric Adams. They're going back on Colbert, that rat from hell,
and they're going to smoke pot right on national TV, Jeff. And this will secure the drunk and the marijuana vote in America. But I don't think we were getting that vote anyway, Jeff, so I don't see any harm and danger in this.
The pothead vote, huh?
She's got it. The cackling. And, Jeff, if there's ever a new Batman movie, I recommend the Joker maybe played by a female this time. I think Kamala's got it. With that laugh, that cackle.
Tom, we're 3.5 weeks out from voting day, from the election. As a Trump supporter, how do you feel? Good?
Jeff?
Bad? Are you worried about the steal?
You know it, Jeff. You know me well. I think he's knocked it out of the park, 60,000 in Butler, Pennsylvania. But, man, oh, man, I just read a story, Jeff, and you're Professor Kuhner. Tell me if this is legitimate, that Arizona, where you have family, I believe,
yes,
had 200,000 illegals ready to cast an illegal vote, and they had to be sued, and the Republican National Committee did nothing about it. It had to be sued privately. Can you confirm that, Jeff?
That's true. No, that's absolutely true. And so they've got to stop those illegals from voting, because they're going to try to steal Arizona. And that's my only concern, Tom, is I don't think the RNC is being aggressive enough in attacking and confronting and blocking this blatant attempt at voter fraud. Now, we got a little bit lucky in Arizona because, again, like Hurricane Helene, private groups, private people, private citizens are taking action. But come on, man, the RNC should have been all over that. So that's my only concern, Tom. If this is anything close to a free and fair election, Trump's going to run away with it. But look, that's election night. I'm just going to keep my fingers crossed and pray. And there's going to be cheating. It's just we got to make sure they don't cheat enough to win. Final word to you, Tom.
People that are home and can be poll watchers, a buddy of mine, I mean, those that are not working 2 and 3 jobs, get out to those polling stations, be poll watchers. We need you. We need those ground troops, Jeff Kuhner. And I pray for you and Donald Trump every single day.
Thank you. God bless you, and thank you for that call, Tom. You're completely right. We need poll watchers. Everyone's got to play their part. Phil, speaking of North Carolina, in North Carolina. Thanks for holding, Phil, and welcome.
Jeff, I appreciate you taking my call.
My pleasure, Phil.
We live in Asheville, North Carolina. So we've been pretty hard hit. And you related a few minutes ago, Cooper versus DeSantis. I mean, it's a no comparison situation. We had a governor who just sat on his hands along with his lieutenant governor and did nothing for, like you say, for a week. We haven't seen a FEMA person in our neighborhood.
Phil,
that's what prompted my...
Phil, I've got to ask you, because we only got a couple minutes, and this is a gem of a call, because the media is saying, and Biden, Harris, Mayorkas are saying, that you're peddling misinformation, Phil, that FEMA has been raining money, supplies, food, water, medical, emergency personnel, that they're all over Asheville, all over Western North Carolina. So, Phil, you're there, you live there. Have you seen FEMA? Have they been helping you?
And that's, as I say, what prompted my call. We are now beginning to see it. But as I said, Cooper sat on his hands for a whole week. And we got no water, no electricity, no cell phone, no internet. And the water in the city of Asheville is not expected to be coming up again. They're saying 1 to 2 months. Now, can you imagine living in a situation like that? No water.
That's unbelievable. Phil, who came? Obviously, you got some aid. Who came to your aid, Phil? If it wasn't
Nobody.
FEMA.
Nobody. And Jeff, that's why I'm calling. Maybe I can give you my cell phone number off the air. And if you could just maybe solicit somebody to get in touch with me for restoration in my house, because I took flooded water. The basement's gone, the furnace is gone, the ACs are gone, the water heater's gone, the family room is torn up with water. I mean, it's a mess. And if I could give you my phone, or maybe you could make a solicitation for somebody in the area to give me a call for some restoration, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Phil, do me a favor. Hang on. Sandy is going to take your number, okay? And we're going to see what we can do. Phil, please stay safe. Take care of yourself and your family. So there's your misinformation. Okay? This is what... So FEMA and the feds and the media are trying to say that Phil is lying. So the guy lives in Asheville, and he says nobody did anything for a week. Nothing. No, just now we're starting to see FEMA representatives. So there's your so-called misinformation. Can I squeeze Donald in? I can't squeeze Donald in? Are you kidding me, Mike? All right. All right, Donald and Raynham, I'm so sorry. I want to get you in. It's not my fault. It's Mike. I need more time. I don't know why. Anyway, so look, this story is not going anywhere, and we're going to continue to cover it, I promise. But let me just end by saying this. The only one spreading misinformation is Biden, Harris, and the lying media. Bye-bye.